Hey guys, Ron here, and for years now I've been sitting on this exact video idea, despite desperately wanting to make my own Regis. I just figured that so many people have already designed their own versions of Regi Dark or Regi Water that there really isn't much room for me to make anything unique. But everybody has their own perspective as to what a new Regi should look like. So here are some of mine. There obviously will be some overlap with other ideas. I mean, my Regi Fire will have fire. After all, these legendary titans have made some of my most fond childhood memories, so I've always been attached to these golems, and I'm glad I can finally show you guys my own. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and consider becoming a patron on Patreon or clicking the join button to become a member and get cool perks like seeing my videos days early and discounts on merch, because I got some ideas cooking up. Let's begin with the fire type. It's one of the few traditional elements left that could easily translate into a Regi, before we enter more abstract territory like ghost or psychic type. I'm gonna take a bit of inspiration from a torch, but I don't want it to look like its body is only half fire. I was personally a fan of how the original 3 Regis were purely made of their respective type, but those were made of solids, and just like how Regieleki consists of mostly plasma, our Regi Fire also needs part of its body to be made of something that is solid to bind its amorphous body. That's why I'm giving it a waist made of hardened lava. It's in a constant state of combustion and lifts off to travel. The final form will look like its arms are spinning a bit less, since I don't want its design to overlap with another Regi I'm gonna cook up. Behold, Regi Fire, the torch Pokemon, with the abilities Flame Body and Flash Fire. An ancient creation of Regigigas, Regi Fire's body resembles a colossal, ever-burning torch. Its flames never waver, said to have burned without ceasing for hundreds of years. When threatened, Regi Fire compresses its core and ignites its lower half, propelling itself like a living rocket, capable of scorching the land below as it soars. Legends claim it once incinerated entire mountain ranges in mere moments. It was sealed after a fire it caused razed an entire city. Despite its destructive nature, Regi Fire remains eerily still in its sealed chamber, its flames softly flickering in restless anticipation of its release. Its shiny is more reminiscent of a copper-exposed flame. Now, since every Regi is also alluded to represent a specific age in Earth's history, or more specifically, human history, like the Stone, Ice, and Iron Age, I'm gonna simply confirm that Regi Fire is based on the Volcanic Age. Perhaps it was created before any Regi, since it was made far earlier than when Earth became habitable for humans. But the point is, we simply don't know. It's just implied. This makes Regigigas also act like a Prometheus figure that gave humanity fire, its first creation resembling a torch. This even makes a bit of sense if you believe that Regigigas first made a fire giant because fire is reminiscent of a beating heart or soul. Now we're moving on to the flying type. Now, since flying isn't a tangible substance, I'm gonna interpret the flying type as air or wind. Again, I want my Regis to embody an inanimate element, so I'm not going to make it look like a bird or any creature that harnesses the skies, but rather a living storm or tornado. Originally, I thought I could be cheeky and make a vortex in the shape of a plane, but it never looked like a golem. Next, I took my time designing a sentient tornado. I made the face look like the eye of a storm with an arm that basically comes out of nowhere, but it felt too generic, like I put Regi eyes on a literal tornado. So I thought, what if I made it look more like a storm cloud mixed with a twister? But I did feel like having the majority of its body look like a cloud kind of fell under a water or ice type. So with the help of my patrons who critiqued both designs, the final Regi will look like a combo of both and very much feel like a representative of the wind. Here is Regi Flight, the Cyclone Pokemon, with the abilities Cloud9 and Wind Rider. Regi Flight is born from the violent winds that once tore through the skies. At its center, a storm cloud roars, its thunderous cries carrying across vast distances. Regi Flight can summon massive tornadoes, capable of obliterating forests and reshaping landscapes. When it moves, it creates a fierce gale that can uproot entire cities. The wind it conjures are so sharp, they can split steel ships in half. It was sealed after lifting an entire palace from an ancient capital. Its shiny is reminiscent of an even stormier cloud. Now, while it kind of represents the age of aviation, it wasn't actually made during that time, kind of like how Regieleki was probably not made in modern times, but represents it. And when it comes to the name of these Regis, just like all the existing Regigigas creations, their names are taken from the names of their type, so something like Regi Wind wouldn't work. I tried to use a word that is related to the word flying instead. While this design had the most turbulent design process, I do think it's super close to what we could eventually get. Now, Grass-type Reggie is both tough and easy at the same time, cause Regirock is literally a rock and Regieleki is electricity, but I'm not making sentient grass. We all know I'm gonna interpret it as wood, basically making a living tree. Although, I hear that trees are basically related to grass, so I don't know. Keep in mind, regardless, I have to make sure that every Reggie has its own unique shape and at least some kind of appendage. A bulbous tree is what I chose. It's probably the least deep Reggie I made, because it's just a tree, man. But keep in mind that my goal throughout this entire video is to make what I believe Game Freak would make. I could be totally wrong, but the point is that I'm studying precedent and making sure it's not more or less complicated than I think an official Reggie design could be. At the end of the day, these branches look like arms and these roots look like legs, and I'm not gonna complain. Check out Regigrow, the foliage Pokemon, with the abilities Chlorophyll and Leaf Guard. It is said to have once walked the earth, nurturing the land and encouraging forests to flourish. Regigrow's movements are slow but deliberate, each step leaving the earth richer and more vibrant. At night, it spreads its roots into the ground and replenishes its energy for the next day's trek. The more polluted the earth is, the less clean energy it can absorb and use to walk. It has not been seen for 200 years. It is believed that it is biding its time among the trees, waiting to regain its original strength and walk once again. Its shiny is kinda obvious. Now this is basically one of the only Reggies to not be sealed, since it's only a force of good and never really threatened humanity. Instead, it's simply lost inside some kind of forest. I like the theory that Regigigas basically planted this Pokemon, and it was able to gain sentience by itself after absorbing nutrients. It represents the age of this planet where most of the Earth was a primal jungle filled with crazy creatures. I don't know, let's call it the Floral Age? Poison type is tricky. Toxins come in many shapes and sizes and configurations. Am I going to take inspiration from poisonous gas, venom, or toxic spikes? No, because I want something that can be perceived as general poison, just like the rest of the Reggies consisting of a general substance. I went with waste. It can be perceived as just liquid poison or a viscous sludge. The problem is we kind of run into muck territory if I color it purple, so green here kind of implies some kind of nuclear waste with debris stuck to it. So it's conceptually different from a muck, although it does come closer to a Alolan muck now. But unlike that Pokemon, I very much want it to look like something that is decomposing and that'll tie into the lore. In the end, it basically represents anything unhealthy, which I'd say constitutes and embodies all the substances that fall under the poison type. Beware, Regitox, the unstable Pokemon with the abilities Poison Touch and Liquid Ooze. Its body constantly oozes a thick, corrosive sludge that withers plant life and poisons the earth it touches. Jagged debris protrudes from its back and arms, remnants of the ruined lands it once called home. It can land a lethal blow with the poison-coated horn on its head. It was thought to be a failed creation of Regigigas. Regitox was the only giant to comply and allow itself to be sealed under many layers of lead and concrete. I like the idea that it doesn't escape from its sealed chamber, mostly because it doesn't want to continue to destroy, despite having the ability to, corrode its cage. It could represent either an age of humanity that was troubled by a plague, or around the time when nuclear energy began to be harnessed. Perhaps it was sealed in modern times. Now we're getting into more complex Reggies with the Ghost type. Just like how our normal type Reggie is very important to Reggie lore in general, I think our Ghost type Reggie wouldn't simply be one of Regigigas' usual creations. I want my Ghost type Reggie to be a rival and even enemy, basically a Frankenstein's monster if you will. What if Regigigas created a Titan using the corpse of another Regigigas, and that's why the head is basically an upside down Regigigas skull? This creation would rebel against Regigigas and eventually be its foe. Another failed experiment, something that literally haunts Regigigas. Regigigas does feel like an allegory for the hubris of man trying to mimic acts of God or Arceus and its creation abilities, so giving it its own Giratina feels appropriate. I instinctively did take inspiration from Ghost Freak from Ben 10, but it's mostly modeled after general representations of death. Beware, Regiwraith, the cursed Pokemon with the ability Pressure. Regiwraith was constructed by Regigigas during a lost age from the bones of a deceased Regigigas. Some say it was a way for Regigigas to revive its loved one, while others interpret it as Regigigas attempting to finally create living Pokemon akin to Arceus' creations. It is believed that Regiwraith lacks a soul and haunts Regigigas for eternity, wishing to torment its creator for imbuing it with a torturous life. Despite Regiwraith's immense power, it cannot physically harm Regigigas. Now here's the thing, while researchers in the Pokemon world debate why Regiwraith can't touch Regigigas, and they just assume that Regigigas implemented some kind of programming that prevents Regiwraith from harming its master, the in-game reason is simply because Regiwraith can only learn damaging Ghost-type moves, while Regigigas is immune to them. This is how I balanced it so that despite it lacking slow start and rivaling Regigigas stat-wise, it has no coverage and cannot defeat Regigigas directly without using a move like Toxic. It's also the only so far whose name isn't derived from its type, because it's basically an equal to Regigigas, and the word for Ghost, Wraith, happens to be present in Japanese media, so Game Freak would believably name it as such, unlike Regispector. Now, Psychic is tough, since while even Ghost-type has ectoplasm to work with, Psychic abilities are literally the opposite of tangible substances like rock. It's all in the mind. Thankfully, Psychic-type also represents the cosmos. And another way to bypass this rule that I set for myself is to, instead of making my Regi-Psychic something that Regigigas created, I'm gonna make a baby Regigigas, basically a Prevo that represents ESP and space. Everything we know about the Psychic-type, basically. It'll be this space fetus or star child that I love to take inspiration from. Instead of floating in a womb, it's biding its time inside a black hole-inspired extra-dimensional egg. Its concept is very much rooted in depictions of a homunculus in alchemy and early biology, but ultimately it's a baby Regigigas, and also kinda mimics Arceus' lore, almost like these two Pokemon are related. Its eyes are obviously modeled after Regigigas' eye, but when colored, it very much evokes the imagery of chakra, or the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. Behold, Regi-Psycho, the cerebral Pokemon, from Psychic, and the Japanese word meaning the best or supreme, Psycho. Psycho can also be split to mean disaster orphan or judgment and destruction, if using, custom kanji. The point is, the name makes sense. Regi-Psycho is said to be a pre-evolved form of Regigigas, suspended within a shimmering field of psychic energy. It endlessly dreams as it drifts through space. Waves of psychic power pulse from its form, warping the air around it and causing strange phenomena to occur. It has been observed to create matter using its thoughts. It is believed that if Regi-Psycho ever fully awakens, its thoughts alone could reshape the world. I'm basically implying that the original Regigigas came from space, and if this video made you hold space, then please leave a like so I can make another 6 Regis with the remaining types that I have, and subscribe to know when that is finally released. Check the description for the music I use, my merch, and my Patreon where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early, which you can also do by clicking the join button and becoming a member. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky for sneak peeks of my Fakemon, and I'll see you guys very soon.